Hi, folks. Roage here, still in the woodshop. If you haven't watched the previous videos, I would suggest doing that before watching this one. Although, maybe you could, just skip it and, just jump right in. For those of you who are still a little uncomfortable and still not quite getting it, like me, I never get there. I'm always just sort of on my way. Uh, and of course, but there are certain thresholds that you go through in your life. But the big question that I have for those of you out there is, have you realized that you're in hell yet? Hmm? And for those of you who have you ever wondered why you're in hell? Because the answer why will actually show you, um, you know, how to get out. So, in the movie Southland Tales, the main character, Boxer Santeros, has these tattoos on his chest, and Mandy Moore then asks him, and they're Asian characters, and Mandy Moore asks him, oh, what do they say? And he looks at her and he says, "There is a path to end all suffering. You should take it." It is a Buddhist saying, um, but just because the path is there, now I found that a lot of people just can't take it, and you have to look at what happened to us. Most of us have become demoralized. Now, when we're born and we're real young, um, we're fully connected. We're connected to on. We utilize the right brain. We're very intuitive. We're able to communicate um, fairly effectively to those others around us that mother or and mother and child have a connection quite beyond just normal senses, and any mother you know should be able to confirm that. That's necessary. I mean, there is a deeper communication going on. It's an intuitive communication. It occurs, through a right brain connection, and it's necessary because babies can't speak, so uh, they utilize what they can, and what they do is they communicate through the singular mind in the right brain, and the mother can pick that up. But shortly after we create our own identities, and we break away from on. We technically enter a state of demoralization, and we become decoupled from the universal mind, and it ends up becoming quite a cage for us. A lot of us, especially here in the past, haven't been able to escape it. We've lived our whole lives all the way to the end in an egoic cage, exclusively in left brain. One such man was Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash wore black. He wore black because he just never considered himself free. However, Johnny Cash understood what was going on, and he tried to tell people, but people weren't listening. Um, that is the older generation's experience. Things are changing right now. Um, we have the internet now. Now, one might think, oh, well, the internet is what's bringing about, the information, and people are growing and learning new things. It's actually backwards. We have it backwards. We're growing and learning new things. We're developing higher states of consciousness, and the internet is just an expression of that. So, we tend to get the cart before the horse. We think the tools bring about the change. No, the change brings about the tools. So, being in hell, with all of the discomfort and all of the fun and all the suffering, uh, we're disconnected. So, it's like this. When you were really young, they set a puzzle in front of you before you even knew any better. And they drilled it into you and they said, if you solve this puzzle, then you can be free. But what they didn't tell you is that the puzzle didn't have a solution. And if you haven't figured that out yet, then you're going to continue to try to solve the puzzle. It's a distraction. We sit here and we play with the puzzle and play with the puzzle our entire lives sometimes. And we don't realize that that puzzle doesn't have a solution. In the movie War Games, the computer started testing tic-tac-toe with the X in the center, and then a number of nuclear conflict scenarios over and over and over again. And finally, when he tested all of the scenarios, he came back and he says, interesting game. You win by not playing. All right, so you sat down at this puzzle and you were free. But you let somebody convince you that you had to solve the puzzle to be free. So you worked your whole life diligently trying to solve the puzzle. But there isn't a solution. It's not until you decide, hey, there is no solution to the puzzle, and walk away. When you do that, then you're free. Now, it's important for people to understand that the game of hell has laws and principles applied. And one of those primary principles is that others don't take power away from you. You're not imprisoned in your own perception because somebody else did that to you. When you were young, you did that to yourself because they baited the trap with savory bait. You know, every kid wants to grow up and be an adult. And they want to rush right into it. But unfortunately, being an adult lately means that you're disconnected, you're confused, and you're suffering. And you're working like a slave, and that's your existence. So you have to realize that when they place the puzzle in front of you, the unsolvable puzzle, and you began trying to solve it, that was a willing act on your part. And then you've become wholly distracted by solving the puzzle, that you don't focus on the correct things. You're so engrossed with reality, the way you think it is, that you miss reality. It's a cage. It's a perceptual cage. It's how you look at the world determines everything about the way you are. And if you don't think that you're free, then of course you're not free. You know, the best cage is one that nobody can tell is there. And unless you actually push the boundaries and hit the walls of the cage, and this is something that I did in my life. I kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally I realized, hey, wait a minute, I'm hitting these boundaries. I'm confined here, and then you start thinking about what's confining you. Well, it's only right here. It's only how you perceive things. You want to be free, you change your perception. That's all. Sounds easy. However, you can't really rely on anybody else to help you because most of the people that are helping you, at least today, are as trapped as you are. And I wouldn't rely on what they say. And in fact, I wouldn't rely on what I say. Okay? You have no business trusting what I say. Just without testing it for yourself or knowing that it resonates within you. Generally, you have a compass that'll tell you what I'm telling you is the truth and what I'm telling you is not the truth. Now, the second you stop, you stop proving it to yourself, and the second you stop trusting me, that's when you're going to get hurt. That's when you're going to get hurt. This is just presentation. The presentation is an illusion. It's very subtle. If you miss the meaning, you're going to get hurt. You'll be suffered. Test these things for yourself. Review the logic. Experiment. You have an entire universe. It's a complete gymnasium. Total interactive educational experience. You've got teachers all over the place. Not just me. Just look around you, everywhere you look. That's the gymnasium. That's the school. That's the classroom. And the more you pay attention, the faster you learn. You got one teacher. It wears many different disguises. It looks like all of the objects. It's all consciousness. But it is educational. Unless you're not paying attention, and then it's just painful. All right, so how did, and I'm going to speak to the to where I'm at, and I'm here in Texas, okay, and that's within an entity that we know of called the United States of America, but it's really not in that entity. The United States of America is a state, sort of like a state of mind. That's exactly what it is. So, you have government, which is technically, if you've watched the other videos, it's control of the mind. It's a very effective control. Why? Because they don't have to do it. They rely on you to do it. And if you're not paying attention, you're doing a good job. So I'll speak to the United States, but it's true. These same elements are used all over the world. It works. They experimented on the people of the United States, found a process that actually works, traps those minds completely. Then they exported it worldwide. So I'm going to show you the trick that they used, and it's really not a trick because we tricked ourselves. We were the ones that were lazy. We apparently are not paying attention enough to realize what's going on. So we had lawful government in these lands, and it was called the Republic of these United States, and they were individual countries that were joined together that decided to create one big bloc, a union, not unlike the European Union. Each of the states had their own governments, and they were largely autonomous. The national government was required to provide a defense and a unified system of laws and justice, and negotiate treaties as one big piece, and settle disputes among the states, and provide the things that made sense to be uniform across all of the states. So it had something called a constitution. Now, if you don't know what a constitution means, it's like health, right? It's the health of, the entity. And it was a trust document between we the people and anybody who decided that they were going to serve the people or as public servants. And the Constitution actually did more to protect the trustees that were acting in government than it did to protect the people, because the people pretty much enjoyed a free reign as long as they weren't really hurting anybody, and as long as the agreement within the people of the state said, hey, it was okay to do this, or if everybody in the state said, well, we don't want you doing that, then you had a choice. You could either go to a state where it allowed that, or you could just try to work within the state through local control and change it as you saw fit. So it afforded people quite a bit of freedom that way. After 1812, the War of 1812, and everybody here in the United States thinks that we won that war against the British. Nah, no, we didn't. And it really wasn't the British. It was against the people that actually the power behind, both the throne, or nowadays it's the City of London. Those are the people behind the power. And after 1812, then finance, world finance and central banking started exerting a lot of power. And one way to do that is get everybody under contract. So, in 1812, they forced the renewal of a bank that was controlling the currency, and then they made sure that the agents that were working, foreign agents working in government, were still allowed to do that. So, quite frankly, you could probably look at that. You might say that, oh yeah, the republic was pretty healthy until 1812, but quite frankly, the republic was dead on arrival because they weren't in control of their money supply, and they weren't in control of who was in office. The Constitution banned it, yet those people were still there. So the people didn't do anything about it. Okay, apparently they didn't recognize that was a primary threat. And of course, the guys in government who were had allegiances overseas and title of foreign nobility, they weren't really going to jump up and down and say, "Hey, folks, you got a problem. You got a problem." So they just let it slide. And the people weren't conscious enough to actually see the danger, even though better minds at the time were just telling everybody, "Hey, if another country has control of over your money, you're done for." I mean, Thomas Jefferson said it. I mean, a lot of the people at the time, they knew exactly what was going on. And right out of the gate in 1791, you got a brand new republic and a brand new foreign-owned central bank. And when they decided around 1810, 1811 to get rid of the bank and kick these guys out of office, the powers that be decided, no, we're not going to let you do that. So they let us keep the flag. See, the flag was still there. But of course, eventually what was going to happen is the republic was going to go away. They were going to bind everybody to a contractual agreement, and they would have their way with us eventually. And we let them. So, in March of 1861, that's when the Southern states decided to put a fork in the Union, and that was it. That was the end of lawful government. Everything after that was fiction, and it wasn't done by the consent of the people. All right, so in 1871, they created a corporation called the United States of America. It was a corporate entity, a fiction, and it wasn't done by the consent of the people. In fact, the people weren't attentive enough to even know what was going on. We call it Reconstruction. Let's rebuild the Union. Let's force it down the throats of the southern states' populations after armies marched through there and just destroyed everything. So they were forced into the Union, right? They were conquered. Well, conquering somebody, I don't know if anybody is aware of this. When you conquer somebody, you generally can't count on their consent. And that's what we had. So these guys are trying to figure out, well, how do we rebuild the lawful union? Well, they couldn't do it by consent. That was out. So in 1878, after they created the corporation, and then they created these new things called U.S. citizens and persons. So in 1878, they created this thing called the U.S. Constitution, and it was going to be the primary document to, to administrate, the country, the federal government. Now, it was called the U.S. Constitution. Now, there's another entity out there called the Constitution of the United States. Now, the U.S. Constitution, when it was initiated, was adopted on behalf of the people, and it was dedicated to the Constitution of the United States. But there's two different things here, folks. You see, without the people on board, you can't have a lawful constitution. And they knew that. So what they did was they created a fictional one that didn't have the consent of the people. And to give them a whole bunch of new freedoms, because they could write laws and do anything that they really wanted. And as long as the people didn't figure it out, they were okay. And they weren't going to go and advertise. Okay? They didn't advertise that, hey, wait a minute, we got this new document, and it's not by the consent. So what they said was, they adopted it on behalf of the people. And the reason why is because by that time, they determined that nobody's figuring this out. Nobody knows the difference. They can't tell the difference between truth and fiction. Then they decided, the people, the actual flesh and blood people, you know what? They're incompetent. They're incompetent and irresponsible. So we're going to accept it. We're going to adopt this new fictional constitution on their behalf because they're nuts. So that's what they did. There isn't anything really lawful about fiction at all. In fact, participating in a fiction it's actually it's an act of self-abuse, which further demonstrates that the people weren't competent. So they set this thing up, and then that ushered in 1913 when they started installing the Federal Reserve, because Andrew Jackson kicked the bank out of here for quite a while, but they needed that back. That's when we started talking about income tax, and it was all legal, mind you, it was all legal, but it wasn't lawful. That whole difference between lawful and legal, after certain generations, we forgot that there was a difference. But there is a difference. One hurts. One does not. One protects you. One inflicts pain. You look around the United States and say, well, which one are we using? The new Constitution granted everybody what's called civil rights. Civil meaning contractual rights. Well, you can't hold contract with people who are nuts. Not real lawful contracts. You can, but they invented these things called colorable contracts, which are fictions, and basically said, well, they're nuts. We can make them do anything that we want. So we'll introduce this idea of a colorable contract. We'll introduce the idea of colorable money and colorable government, colorable subsidiary corporations called states, districts, and then even eventually zip codes, which are federal occupation zones. So that's the name of them. So they've classified you all. As soon as if you use the mail, then of course you're a person. So it's not a government by it's not a government by the persons, but we the people did that. But we're not really clear who those people are. We think it's us, but it can't be us. We're the persons. If you don't know what a person is, you can go to my website and look up the article, the official state office known as person. Yeah, you'll figure out what they did. All right, so one of the indicators too, and one of the dangerous things that ways that we give up our power, right, is we help each other do that. It's a service that we give to our fellow man. Over here, we fill sports stadiums to distract ourselves with sports. And I'm not saying sports is a bad thing, but instead of watching it, how about playing it? It's a lot more useful. You'll actually lose weight too if you're actually playing it instead of watching it. So we go to these sports stadiums, and then everybody stands up and they either they sing "God Bless America" or even worse, the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, anytime somebody doesn't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance, oh, they're unpatriotic. Oh, we want to run them out of town. We usually tell them, man, if you don't like it, just get out of this country. Because, you're unpatriotic. You're just a malcontent, and I don't like you. So we self-police ourselves, make sure that everybody's bound themselves to the contract. But in the Pledge of Allegiance, it's right in there that we're talking about two different things. Right? There's two different things. The Pledge of Allegiance starts out this way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. That's all you need to know. First things first. If we actually thought about it, what are you pledging your allegiance to? A flag. Think about that. Every time you say that, they know you're out of your mind. You don't believe me? Try this. I pledge allegiance to the chair of the United States of America. Now, United States of America comes first. Then the republic for which that United States of America stands. It stands for. It represents something that's gone. So, instead of rights that are protected by a lawful trust document, in agreement by everybody who's in the country, by their consent, we have a system where there is no consent, and it's contractual. And technically they have you at your word. But, they say your word is your bond. But we really don't know what that means. See, we don't keep promises. We're not conditioned to do that. A little white lie here and there, as long as you don't hurt anybody's feelings. You know what I mean? But we've actually developed that into quite a skill. So, when you look at somebody who's serving in government right now, and they say, well, I'm bound by oath. The first question is, oath to what? Well, oath to the U.S. Constitution, of course. So, we read the rights that the old Constitution afforded. We read the rights that were protected under the old Constitution. We say, hey, but wait a minute, you guys aren't doing this. Why aren't you doing this? Then we go to the courts and we say, hey, these guys aren't doing it. And the judge says, I can't educate you to the law. I swore an oath not to do that. So, boy, if you don't know the difference, I can't tell you. What are you doing in my courtroom anyway? Didn't you know I was God in my courtroom? Huh? Oh, it's in the U.S. Constitution. Didn't you read it? Oh, you didn't? Oh. Did you even know it existed? Did you know there were two different entities? Oh, no? Oh, well, I can't help you. So, because you're not paying attention, me being the judge, God in my venue, I'm going to make things uncomfortable for you. How about some jail? Maybe a fine. Or I'll just take away the things you think you own. We don't realize that when we walk into a courtroom, the attorney we think are representing us doesn't. It represents the person created through your birth certificate. Or technically he represents you, but you have demonstrated that you are incompetent and irresponsible. You can't formulate your own defense, because if you're a man, you don't need an attorney to represent you. Right? They're looking at you as a vaporous apparition. They don't even listen to you. You walk into the courtroom, you don't matter. And that's exactly how they treat you. They do just enough to, they're just merciful enough to keep the ruse up, but not merciful enough to actually tell you what you've done to yourself. But see, that's your responsibility. So we're in a country of we the persons, and we think we're we the people, but there's nothing that we're doing that's actually overturning that. Not only that, but this government has turned all control over to another fiction of law called the UN. And they're going to manage all the incompetent people worldwide. Tell them what to do. And they have. And it really hasn't worked out for some people. They've decided to help people. When you had one group of people abusing the other people, the UN rushed right out there and didn't do anything. I mean, millions and millions of people have been killed. Okay? Now, we did it. Us. If you look at the Declaration of Human Rights, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, take a good look at it. The only reference to man or woman indicates sex and not entity. Everything else deals with this construct called person. Now, I've gone into that before, so you should know what that is by now. They're not talking about people. However, you sign on to that declaration, you give away all of your rights. All of them. They get to tell you what to do. And they don't have a good track record. But if you need to have that suffering, you will have it. We need to pay attention to what's going on. We need to see the difference between truth and fiction. So, this is a strict... This universe is operated under strict liability. There's only one being that can have responsibility over you, and that's you. You have all the power and all the freedom. And you've decided that it's a good idea to give all of that power and responsibility up to somebody else. So you did that. Of course, the duty of the person that you do that is to get you to snap out of it. Okay, he recognizes that you're nuts. So the only way they've found to actually wake you up is apply suffering. Make things hard for you. But a lot of us still aren't waking up. In fact, we don't even know we're asleep. So strict liability, that means you are responsible for whether you take that responsibility or not. And if you don't take that responsibility and somebody else has responsibility over you, then don't expect it to be wonderful. See, this is the nice thing about the universe. The universe will indulge all of your confusion. It'll indulge your stupidity to no end. In fact, it will let you, if you want, march yourself right into the sea. Injure yourself all you want. All under your own power, all under your own decision. You see, they didn't do this to us by breaking the law. They did this to us by obeying the law. They didn't take your rights away from you They just created a situation where you were lazy and you did it on your own. They have your permission. You gave them your permission. However, you don't realize when you did that. It's going When you did that is when you were really young and somebody set that puzzle in front of you. You decided that, hey, it's a good idea to be an identity. So then you started trusting what your parents told you. Well, what did your parents tell you? Well, they taught you how to be confused like them. So you went through your whole life and things just weren't working for you, and you say, hey, you know what? Something's not going right here. Now, see, in the past, that's the way we die, totally confused. And then, of course, we die, of course, wake up, and wow, what did I do here? Then we'd come back and go right back into it, do the whole thing over and over again. You know, one being playing in 7 billion flesh suits, all not getting it. So, if we want to believe something, the universe will give us just enough to make us think that it's actually that way. And string us along, such that we can suffer and suffer and suffer until we decide to stop and say, hey, that's enough. That's enough. Now, in the video Honor, I told you that all you really have to do is remove your consent. You don't have to resist. You don't have to fight. Just remove your consent. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that just don't believe that it's that easy. I wonder how many of you that are suffering right now heard me say that and says, I don't believe you. I wonder how many of you actually asked the question, well, why does that work? Is there any natural law that actually makes that work? Well, yeah. Consent is a function of someone who's responsible. You have to be responsible to exercise consent. It's probably the first act of a sane man. Now, until you actually withdraw your consent, then you're nuts. So why would anybody spend their whole life as a slave to somebody else who determines everything about you, tells you what to do? Why would you consent to that? If you do, then, of course, they look at you and say, well, you're nuts. Here, let us beat you with this nightstick. How's that going for you? That's the way it works. So, a few weeks ago, right, I went to the local blank Church of Christ. Now, I don't want to name it because then everybody will, think I'm trying to attack the church. And I'm really not attacking the church. I think that there's probably wonderful people there. I believe that they probably have good hearts, and they're probably very well intended. But I talked to some of the church elders, right? And the church elders, they're not there to free the people of the church, because that's their source of revenue. So I'm looking at these people, and they tell me, oh, well, you have to do what man's government tells you because that's what God wants you to do. And I thought, really? Well, if that was the case, I think I remember reading a story about this guy called Moses, and apparently this group called the Hebrews were enslaved in Egypt and forced to work as slaves. So one day there's this guy Moses, and he was part of the technically he was trained by the Egyptians, and eventually he figured out that he was Hebrew. I mean, you saw the Cecil B. DeMille's Ten Commandments thing. It's the whole deal. So when I talked to these church elders, they said, well, you need to do what man's government tells you to do. And I says, well, and I'm thinking to myself, I says, well, if that's the case, then we wouldn't even need to have this conversation, because we would all still be in Egypt working for the Egyptians. What says, hey, wait a minute, I'm full up here. You do. You do. Are you doing that yet? So you remove your consent. And what happens? When you remove your consent, you become responsible. Then you realize that you are being injured. It's as simple as that. So there's going to be a separation between the people who are consenting or don't even know that they've consented, and the people who've withdrawn their consent. Because when you consent in ignorance or confusion, you suffer the consequences. When you remove your consent, then it becomes a crime. Then it becomes a violation of rights. So you're not going to stop the crime. You're not going to stop people from doing that. That's why you don't resist. You let them. However, they're going to enjoy the consequences that you were absorbing before. When you just simply say, no, I ain't doing this anymore. And this is why attention is very important. Because in everything you do, you need to recognize, hey, wait a minute, I don't like this. I don't consent to this. I'm driving to work 30 minutes in a car because I have to eat. I don't want to do it. I do it, but I don't consent to it. I have to work. Work. I'm away from my family. I'm being forced to do this. This is under duress. I don't consent. So the people that set this up, all of the other people that consent in ignorance, or some of them might just consent willfully. I've seen that too. That's pretty scary. What's happening here is a change of consciousness. The people that are paying attention and withdraw their consent. You get a free pass, you're forgiven. Yeah, you just go ahead and do that. What knows the difference? Well, on, of course. On's looking out of your eyes. You don't have to say, well, hey, on, I'm withdrawing my consent for what I'm doing right now. You don't have to do that. It's looking out through your eyes. It already knows. It knows your heart. It can already tell. If you don't consent to it, technically, it comes over, see, vengeance is on's. Right? Somebody injures you through a crime, you do not resist. You turn the other cheek. Vengeance, if you take your hands off of it, those consequences for what they did to you, they're going to be reflected right back onto them. Especially if they're ones that aren't consenting. So there's going to be a split here. The people who consent and the people who do not. The people who are aware and the people who are unconscious. The people who are aware and remove consent, their suffering is going to ease. The people who remain in that paradigm, their suffering is going to increase. Because it's disproportionate enough, the more people that remove consent, the more power flows to the people that are confused and the people who are just outright intentionally committing crime. And they will suffer. Look at the news. It's getting set up here. This whole paradigm is getting set up right now. So I talked to these church elders who, of course, one of them says, is there medication that you take for your condition? I said, happiness? No? I'm not depressed. No, I don't need any medication. Oh my God, heaven forbid, there's something wrong with me because I don't want to do things that are hurting me. Man, I'll bet you there's a pill for that. I'll bet you it hurts me even more. See, these are the guys that are waiting for Jesus to come back. They haven't realized that he never left. You know, I get people sometimes that say, "Are you Jesus?" My answer to them is, "Who isn't?" I don't know. Read what he said. Basically said, shoot, if you think I could do shit, just wait. You can do more. Nothing special there. You have a man that's paying attention. Yeah, it looks miraculous. It is miraculous to people who are confused and don't know how things work. He was a prototype. He's the way. Yeah, follow the prototype. What did he say? You know, if you get a King James version and you actually, pay attention, don't read the words. Don't just read the words silently. Speak the words out so then the meaning, the sound hits your ears. Then you'll get the meaning intuitively. And it ain't the definition of the words. Right? That's why, until you establish a right brain connection, become remoralized, you have no business reading Scripture because you're not getting it. It even says that in there. Nobody reads it, though. They're too busy making colorable money. Right? You got the shepherd and the flock. How about that? Master, slave, see that? Religio, went into that before. What does that mean? To tie or bind? It's exactly their function, right there in front of your face. They tell you all along, they don't do anything in secret. They put it right in front of your face, and you still can't see it. It's going on right in front of your face, and you cannot see it. They tell you what it is. That's how they know you're incompetent. Right? So then you got the Muslims out there waiting for the 12th Imam. Same thing. These are prototypes. These are prototypical ways of being. The Jews are waiting for a conquering Messiah. What's left to conquer? The only thing left to conquer is what's in the mirror. Pretty tough. You don't have to fight anybody for that. Just look in the mirror, do some introspection. It's the only thing left to conquer. And when you decide to do that, it's going to lose. Ego gets its butt kicked every time. Conquering Messiah. Yeah. A loving God wants you to go out there and kick the shit out of everybody that doesn't believe the way you do. How about this? How about we try this? How about we have our own individual, unique experience with On? How about that? How about we not try to force what works for us on everybody else? Because all you have to do is sit there and do nothing, think nothing, feel nothing. And it comes to you. That's the relationship. Listen to the people around you. Look at the events in your life. It's teaching you. Everything is teaching you. It's just an educational environment. The more you pay attention, the more things start making sense. The more you ask questions, it's just right there in front of your face. No, the solution is not thinking outside of the box. If you're thinking outside of the box, then you're still in the box. Thinking inside the box does nothing. You need to be outside the box. Being requires no thinking, no doing, no feeling. You are. It's easy. You don't even break a sweat on that. But if you got ego running rampant in there, thinking for you, it'll only come up with solutions that hurt. And you employ those solutions. Keep practicing. See if it stops hurting. If you're watching this, you're already infected. One thing that I've noticed is I only have a responsibility to notify people of their readiness. What they choose to do is totally up to them. And I don't care how persuasive I am, I can't force anything on you. And you can't force anything on me. It's how we're protected. Everything that's hurting you, you are doing. It's your responsibility, not mine. If you're not paying attention, I'm going to hurt you. As a reflection, an egoic reflection, that's my job. Now you can get all bent out of shape about it if you want. Go ahead. My job is to cause suffering. I can only cause suffering to people who aren't paying attention. If there's somebody in my environment causing me to suffer, I don't say, oh, what are they doing to me? I say, oh, why did I need that? What are they teaching me? They're a reflection of me, and this thing's happening over and over again. So what is it in me that's causing the problem? It's a lack of forgiveness, folks. That's what it is. Why? Because if there's somebody out there, let's say he's clipping his fingernails at work, just drives me bananas. Well, not really, I care less. But I know it bugs some people. So, he's clipping his fingernails at work, and I can hear it, It just pisses me off. Well, why? Is he doing it to me? No, he's showing me something. He's showing me something inside me that I haven't forgiven myself for. When I say, oh, okay, yeah, I used to do that. Yeah, I used to do that. I didn't like it. And now he's doing it to me. But I did that and I didn't forgive myself. And as soon as you look at the incident that actually caused that scenario, for some reason somebody's lying to you, or whatever it is, anything that's people are misrepresenting things, right? Telling lies to you. You got to look and say, okay, wait a minute, this guy's lying to me. Why is that happening? Oh, I know he's lying. So then I say, oh, wait, you know what? I was lying too. Here's the incident. Here's all the times that I've lied to other people. When you look and say, okay, this is just a simulation, it's an education. He's lying to me to teach me my own behavior, the problems I was causing myself. But it's okay because it's an educational place. We're supposed to blow it here. Okay, we're supposed to make mistakes here. That's how we learn. We suffer. This is why we do that. We didn't come here to be perfect. We come here to blow it and learn from it. Well, we got the blowing it part down. I mean, look around. Yeah. All right, so this guy's lying to me. I look into the past and I says, you know what? I lied to other people too. And I hurt other people. And I just sort of threw it in the back of my mind. Sit there repressed. I forgot about it. And I never forgave myself for doing that. And if you can't forgive yourself, when that other When you do that and you forgive yourself, when that guy lies to you, you can say, shoot, I did that too. It was okay. I forgave myself for it. And you look at him and you say, it's okay. I can forgive him too. When you do that, it stops happening. Why? Because you processed the lesson. All of these uncomfortable memories you have, just go back through them, figure out why they happened. Forgive yourself for doing it because you had to. That's how you learned. These things that happen to you over and over and over again. Right? Let's say, for instance, a man, a woman, a young girl, a young woman is looking for particular traits in a man. And for her number one traits is he's got to have nice hair and a nice car, maybe a leather jacket. So she finds somebody that fits her profile. That's what she likes. Oh, never mind the guy's a total dick. Right? Was mean to her. Right? So finally, they break up, and then of course she's sitting with her girlfriends telling me, "Oh man, he was such a bad man. He was such a this. He was such a that. He did this to me, and he did this to me." Oh yeah, and it's great. It's fun to complain. And her friends console her and says, "Oh, it's okay." Right? So she was able to transfer that responsibility to him, and then a few days later she's out on the hunt again. What's she looking for? Well, another guy who's got nice hair, nice car, and a leather jacket. She didn't learn a lesson. She hooks up with this next guy. He's worse. Oh, but man, she has all kinds of fodder for complaining. Oh yeah, now her friends are really listening because, oh man, he was really mean to her. Then she turns around, she transfers that responsibility onto this new guy, and then goes out and does the same thing. A few decades go by, she marries this guy. He's beating her every day. That's not learning a lesson. If she would have just said, hey, why am I looking for those traits? Is that what I need? Oh, it's what I want, but is that what I need? She needed to be beaten, apparently, because she wasn't learning the lesson. All the while, there's probably kind men, secure men, safe men, that actually listened and would talk to her. But that's not what she needed, apparently. She needed somebody to beat her because she wasn't paying attention. Didn't take the time to actually say, hey, wait a minute. That first guy, when he did that to me, it was my fault because I had a laundry list of particular qualities that I were looking, and none of those things were worth having in a man. All that they did was cause pain. And we needed that pain. So you go through these things that you do, and normally a good indicator is when you see yourselves doing this thing over and over again. It's just like, why is it every time I go to a job, then everybody's playing these politics games, and it just gets out of control? Well, the only common thing is that you're there. Haven't figured that out yet? Happens to you over and over and over again? What could be the problem? You. And it's because you've repressed memories. And some of these memories you don't even know are in there. You have to literally ask On to show you what's there. And how does On show you that? Well, it's usually a reflection in your environment that you call another person that does exactly what the problem is. And if you study that other person when he does it, don't recoil, right? Forgive that other person when he does it because that other person is showing you something important. Learn from what that reflection is showing you and say, hey, that's something that's inside me. Now, when did I do that? Oh, I was 10 years old and I did this and this and this. Wow. And it's okay because It's okay. And then all of a sudden, boom, all the emotional attachment goes away from it, and you've cleared that out. Carl Jung actually talked about it. He called these repressed memories and all this dark stuff in your past. He called it dark content. He says if you don't manage your dark content, it'll become manifest in your reality as fate. Why? Because it's not healthy for you to carry that stuff around. Self dumps that out in front of you so you can deal with it properly. Oh yeah, it might be uncomfortable. But hey, let's face it. We didn't come here to be perfect. We came here to make a mess of things and learn from it. But we only got half of it. We made a mess, and then we said, "Oh, we'll just transfer responsibility." This is where traditional religion is so wonderful, because they created this construct called Satan. Dun dun dun. Oh no, you're forgiven. No, that's okay. Yeah, you're okay. You're forgiven. The devil made you do it. Yeah, he's the bad guy. It's not you. Oh no, you have no responsibility whatsoever. And listen to what they say. You have no responsibility. Yeah, you're confused. Yeah. You're insane. It's okay. Yeah, it's a devil. He made you do it. They help you transfer your responsibility. That's an act of an insane man. I look at my universe and said, hey, it's all for me. I caused it all. It's all my responsibility. I'm responsible for not only what I do, but what happened to me. I did it. I needed it. It taught me great lessons. I wouldn't be the man I am today if those things hadn't occurred. It made me a better man. They were worth it. They were valuable, and they were vital. But if you want to say, oh well, these other guys, these evil men, or oh it's them reptilian aliens living under DIA, that's what's causing the problem. Just another bad guy to blame things on. I ain't seen any little green men. I ain't seen no demons. And I looked. Some people need them. And that just goes where the universe will indulge you anything that you need. If you need aliens in your experience, they're there. I'm not saying that they're not real. I just never seen one. I never needed one. I didn't need demons at all. I didn't need that. But there are people that need it. Yep, they need it. Ghosts, same thing. If you need to see a ghost, boy, you're probably going to see one. Especially if it causes fear and confusion. Yeah, you'll get that. Yeah. But if you're tired of that, just decide not to do it. Remove your consent. Consciousness is changing. There's going to be a separation between the people who consent and the people who do not consent. Right now, there's not a lot of people removing their consent. You can tell. I mean, these videos aren't spreading across the planet. Odd thing is only the people who are ready actually will find these videos. It'll only be useful to a fraction of those people. And a fraction of those people will actually, finally put things together to where they can actually see an improvement in their experience. And I say, if one man or woman actually gets it, then I'm happy. My obligation is to notify you that you're ready. If you're watching this, and even if you shut it off early, sorry, you're already infected. If you don't pay attention, it's going to hurt. Like the Borg in Star Trek New Generation. But just replace Borg with on. Resistance is futile. You will service us. There's only one being doing this. you know. But we think, oh, what a horrible club to be in. Everybody's inside going, hey, man, this is great. You should come over here. But, they're looking inside saying, oh, man, I don't want to go in there. It looks confining. Doesn't look like you have any freedom at all. Looks like you don't even have any independent thought. Right. You don't actually really, really understand until you actually, figure that out. See, we're tweaking the game console here, folks. Consciousness is getting so advanced now that we're actually finding the help menu. Pretty soon we're going to learn the controls of this. Now guess what? Irresponsible people, they don't get that kind of control and power. Right? And it ain't going to happen with most of the people confused. No, two things that happen. The confused will go away by their own choice, by their own lack of attention. They will consent to do it. Or, that's it. You're going to change, or you're not going to matter. And those people who think that's a good idea to deprive other people of rights, to force them to do things, they're going to learn. Because as time goes on, it's going to hurt and hurt and hurt and hurt more and more and more and more. Oh, and yeah, they'll say, oh, it's just bad luck. It's just bad luck. But boy, if they don't listen those first few times, every iteration it hurts more and more. You better get used to it, because you're going to look at people that you care about going through this, and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do. They won't be able to listen to you. You're going to see it over and over and over again. But it's okay. It's okay. We came here for this experience. We're changing consciousness. We're changing our state of being. You focus on the right now. Right now. You pay attention right now. You learn from what you're doing. If you pay attention, you will learn. You will be where you need to be right now. In the now, you either are happy or you're not. You're either free or you're not. You either love or you do not. You either have truth or you do not. It's a 180 degree. It's an all or nothing deal. You either exist in the now or you do not. In the now is the amazing nothing. There is no thought, there's no feeling. There's no emotion. There's no doing required. It's a nothing. In fact, your universe is a nothing. It's a very highly organized thought. That's all. Very complex thought. It's a practical joke we've played on ourselves. It's a huge nothing. But it's amazing that nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. Because you let nothing stop you. The largest obstacle in our experience is nothing. And we let that nothing stop us. Nothing is impossible. Don't let nothing stop you. Now, what's going to happen here? Well, it's on. He's waking up. He, she. He's waking up. This is part of it. On to bulldozer. Caterpillar Company used to make the largest bulldozer in the world. Now it's a Komatsu, which tells us a lot about what's going on by itself. And it's the model 575A-2. It's 1,100 horsepower, and it weighs 150 tons. That's on. You either get on the bulldozer, or you get out of the way. You don't stand in front of this bulldozer, folks. It's gonna hurt. The faster you people figure this out, a lot more fun we're gonna have. Let's get on with it. I mean, seriously. Have we suffered enough? Do we need another world war? I mean, really? Do we need that? There's a majority out there that think that way. They just, let's just get on with it, man. We're sitting in hell, right? We're sitting in hell and we're saying, just wipe me out, man. Just wipe out, just start the war. Let's have Armageddon or whatever it is. Now let's kick off the end time prophecy because we're done waiting. We can go to heaven after we're dead. Yeah, well, okay. But why not just have heaven now? See, that's the game here, right? It's the escape from hell game. Very challenging. Tweaking the console. We figured out. And we're not applying a cheat code here. We're just applying the actual rules to the game. It's a challenging game. It's worth playing. Escape from Hell, everybody's playing it. It's probably the hottest thing in the universe. That's why you're here. You put your quarter in, put the headset on. First rule is you forget what you are, then you get to play the game. When you remember what you are, you win the game. Then you enter the bonus round. You play this one until you get it, or you leave it. We're running out of quarters. We're not mastering this yet. Oh, some of you are. Some of you are. I've got great feedback on some of the videos, and some great thoughts. Look, folks, I know you're happy. I know you think I'm doing this for you, but I'm not. This is you. You're doing this. This right here is just a reflection of you. It's time we're learning this. If you think this stuff here is stuff that, I think of in my head, right? Think of and then say, no. What I do is I just sit here and it just comes to me and I say it. Or I sit quietly and these things come to me and I write them down and then I just relate them right here. It's what we need to learn. In fact, I have to sit here and watch these videos so I can learn. Because it's a little hard for me to listen to what I'm saying while I'm saying it. I have to go back through and look at my face as an external being and say, wow, who is this guy, man? He's teaching me this stuff. Who is it? Wow, that's great. There's no need for thanks here, folks. I'm not doing this for you, although it might be very useful to you. I'm doing this for me. This is consciousness waking up. This suit, all this suit is doing right here is just an expression of that. That's all. You're doing it. This information was available, but not in this form. If it's hitting you right now, if it looks like I'm talking to you right now, it's because I am. Because I'm talking to me. If you want to maintain the illusion that we're separate, okay, you can go ahead and do that. Have some extra suffering for me, and you deserve it. We are doing this. And it's not a we. It's an I. It's on doing this. It's time to wake up, folks. Wake up! Wake up. Wake up. How about this? Let's try this. Okay, I'm not talking to the body you're wearing. I'm talking to the being that's looking out through your eyes. Are you listening very carefully? Wake up. Wake up. Realize what you're doing. Stop it. Do something else. Be happy. Be free. Do it now. Let's see if that works. It's a bulldozer. It's happening. You know, I got people in my experience that don't realize that, hey, my function, I can help you. When you're ready, yeah, you know, you can hit the website, you email me, I don't care. There's probably but you don't have to listen to me. Everything in your environment is teaching you. Just pay attention. We call them synchronicities. You know, when you get to a certain stage of attention like me, you'll find out that physics itself is not really consistent, and it doesn't need to be. That's not the consistency. If you need physics to behave in a normal way, it will. Me, the lesson has become so nuanced and complex that I'll see scenery changes while it's happening. Stuff appears out of nowhere. Or you say something and the other person gets something completely different. That's normal. Lesson is key, not physics. And when you're first starting out, you really need consistent physics, right? Because, you know, hey, you're a little unstable still. But as time goes on, things will happen that can't be explained through traditional physics, and it's okay because you're in a stable, comfortable place, and it's okay for that stuff to happen. You don't go nuts. You don't say, "Oh my gosh, something just, you know, that, whoa, that's weird. Whoa." You don't do that. You just look at, and then you say, "Oh, well, the reason why it happened is because, oh, I needed it." You know, initially you go through what's called trust builder exercises, where you're presented with a choice, then you don't get to know, you know, which side you're going to choose, right? Both sides look terrible, right? So you ask people, well, what do you think? And and the trust builder exercise itself removes your ability to know which direction to go. Both either seem bad or you can't distinguish which you need to do. Generally, there's a lot of discomfort with that. So if you sit there and not make a decision, you're just going to suffer there. But if you decide, okay, I'm going to make a decision. Why? Because I trust on. Then on will say, hey, okay, and then everything gets cool. You get what you need, and everything moves forward. But if you stay there not making that decision, ooh, it's going to hurt. But you need it. Those are called trust builder exercises. In talking, you know, to some of the other people that are starting to advance in consciousness and pay very close attention, we decided, I actually figured out that there's a different exercise that occurs. It's called a forgiveness exercise, right? So you and a friend are having a conversation. You say something, means something, and the other person hears something completely different. In fact, it gets so odd, it's like you had completely two different conversations. So what does that cause? That causes you to go like this. Oh, you sucker, you did that. You know, I said this, and this. And the other guy says, well, I said this, and this, and this. And you know what? You're both right. You heard one thing. You said one thing. You said one thing. He heard one thing. And they're not even the same. So what does it do? Causes conflict. So if you trust on enough and say, hey, I'm going to forgive you, you forgive him, right? And from a point of forgiveness, you know, I don't care what you said. It's okay. You know, I love you anyway. Didn't hurt me. Wow. Then when you have that conversation, then rationally you can say, well, you know, I said this and this and this, and you said that? Were we even in the same conversation? Oh, wow, man, that's weird. And then, of course, you both have these epiphanies and these transformational you know, incidents, and you say, whoa, what's going on here? You know, me and the lovely Beebles, we've been going through this quite a bit. All it does is help us with our ability to forgive. And we just say, oh, okay, well, it's just a simulation. That's just a forgiveness tester. It's okay. I can cut you a break. It's okay. You're me. I'm you. We're all okay here. But you need to increase the amount of forgiveness in you, right? Because there's people over here that are terrified because other people might find out what they did and not be forgiven. They could take any punishment, but the fact that, we're not forgiven by the people we've quote-unquote victimized. And to avoid that, they'll do anything, including kill the people that they want forgiveness from. Just give it to them. Like candy, just throw it out all over the place. It makes your path so much easier. Stops conflict immediately. Yeah, why not just forgive them? No harm, no foul. It's just a simulation. What's the worst that's going to happen? You think of the scenario, like last century. I grew up, I lived a lot of my life in last century. Just think, 50,000 years, if that's what we're going to do. Let's just say we keep doing the same thing we've been doing. 50,000 years from now, the only thing they'll remember of that century is Adolf Hitler. That's all. Or the world wars, the conflict. None of the good works will even be remembered. Because after time, everything grows to one. Oh, okay, well, 20th century was Hitler and conflict. That's it. Nothing else happened. Doesn't really matter. What you do here doesn't really matter to anybody except you. So wouldn't it be nice if you were actually paying attention? Nothing's lost here. All of this is valuable lessons. This body has had a pretty interesting experience, and it's all captured. It's available to the universal mind. You got to think about this, right? Just here on Earth, the consciousness that's here. Every object is consciousness. Every man, woman, and child is all feeding back experience simultaneously to this one being. And it's all being processed, it's all being remembered, and it's all an educational process simultaneously. Oh, the processing power must be astronomical. I mean, it is just awesome if you think about it. And it's probably 360 degrees, right? It's probably the mind. The mind itself is your most potent sensory tool. It is the tool for discerning truth. You don't believe me? Yeah, I mean, you can look at witnesses that two people see the same incident and have completely different recollection. Memory is not that useful. Smells. Your senses aren't reliable. However, the mind, when you pay attention, your mind becomes the primary tool for discerning truth. How about knowing things that you don't have to think about by not thinking about the solution? Yeah, just sit there. Do nothing. Feel nothing. Think nothing. And wow, it just comes to you. Oh, and that solution is fully formed. And it's thought of everything. And it just works out perfect. Like clockwork. In fact, so perfect that I don't care how much thought you devote to it, you're not going to come up with something that brilliant. In fact, stop thinking. I have. I don't need to think. I don't even worry about what it is I'm going to say in the next moment. Yeah, I mess it up sometimes, but it's a suit. It's a suit. It did it. I blame the suit. That'll bake your noodle. So relax, folks. Ultimately, we're all going to get it. We're all going to figure this out. because we really don't have much choice. There isn't a me and you. It's just on, looking out through our eyes. And on's ready. Now, the way this is working is you've got people on different levels of consciousness. And what happens is, depending on where you are, it's a bottom-up deal. So gradually what happens is the bottom people are forced up. Now, it doesn't occur without discomfort. So that's why it can't be fast. Okay? You don't want these changes immediately. Okay? When you're first starting out, you want it slow. Because these are uncomfortable things. The first things are like, oh man, I just realized that I've been just a hopeless liar my whole life, and I've been hurting people, and it takes a lot of forgiveness. You don't want that, do that over, I mean, you'd be miserable. This is not a game of just causing suffering for no reason. Suffering exists for a reason. There's a perfectly good reason for suffering to exist. Gratuitous suffering serves no purpose. Suffering without a purpose doesn't occur. So the people on the bottom are going to gradually be forced up to the other layers, and then they will all come up, and then it'll just sort of keep rising up, and everybody will percolate up to the top. Now the issue is too, you're going to be forced up to the top. You're going to hit some threshold where it's going to snap you on. Okay, everybody is going to hit that threshold. However, some of them are going to be fairly extreme. And the dividing line is those that decide to remove their consent, start paying attention, and those who do not. The ones that do not are going to have more extreme egoic expression, meaning that it's going to hurt more. There's going to be more fear, there's going to be more terror. So it's in your interest to actually spread this around. It's scary out there, folks. Pay attention. Don't be an ego when it happens. You know, in right brain you have a separation. You know, there's a distance between you and your emotion. You stand back. You realize that you're not the character on the screen. You're not wholly identified with the character on the screen. You're the guy sitting in the movie theater watching the actor on the screen. When you spill your popcorn, you realize, oh, I'm just watching the movie. Oh, jeez. That's it. Create that emotional separation. Well, how about this? How about you let that emotional separation be created? You do that by paying attention, right? When you see yourself reacting in old patterns, create that distance. Create the separation. Oh, just let the suit do what the suit does, but sit back beside yourself and just watch it like you're watching a movie. You know, don't try to resist ego. You can't. Ego does what ego does. Relax. It's okay. Use your weapon. Forgiveness. Tell people. Tell them that it's okay. And when things get really stressful for you, right, and it will. I mean, it's the worst. I mean, you got the most stress on you. Just say this, wow, man, I love this game. It's the stress that makes the game fun, challenging, useful. When you say that, hey, man, I love this game, you recognize, okay, this stress is necessary. And then all of a sudden you create this emotional separation. The suit does it. The suit feels stressed, all of that stuff. But you sit back in your comfortable little theater chair and you watch the show. And you can say, man, did you just see ego do that? Hey, I'm sorry about that. Ego just went out of control here. And they'll probably say, look, hey, it's okay. It's okay, man. You actually, I wasn't listening before, but man, when you started yelling, man, I started paying attention. And it helped. I actually learned from you. But you don't get that. When you create conflict, you don't understand that conflict is helping both of you, right? The quote-unquote victim and perpetrator need each other. Just like the sane man and the insane man. They need each other. Okay? They have no way of judging their behaviors, right? But here's the whole idea. Who is the insane man? Right? See, the ancient peoples didn't have a separate word for shaman and one who was insane. So when you come up on somebody, you start talking to them. Of course, they're different from you, right? So you start listening to him and you say, oh, this he's really different. I think he's nuts. I think he's nuts. And then you listen a little bit more. Most people say, well, he's nuts, and I don't even listen. But I'll bet you, if you find some guy that you consider insane, and you really try to listen to his experience, you'll find that all he's done is really adjusted to his environment. Probably no different from you. In fact, you'll probably be the same as he if you went through the same experiences that he did. You probably come to the same conclusions that he did. Right? So the ancient people said, okay, they didn't have a separate word. And the reason why is at first when you start listening to the insane man, he is insane. But then all of a sudden, you notice that, that he's different because he has a different insight. He's insightful. He knows stuff that I do not. He's experienced stuff that I do not. And he's sharing this with me. And all of a sudden, slowly what happens is the man stops being insane. Not only that, but you really recognize the power of what that man says. Then he's no longer insane. Then he's appreciated as somebody who really has something to say and is really important. So much for insanity. One man with a different idea can change an entire population of people. A world, even. But we put our boundaries on it. Oh, we don't want to, if we said that or thought that, other people might think we're insane. So what? Let them think that. It's okay. If you've proven things to yourself, and it's the truth, quite frankly, most of the people around you aren't going to be able to hear it. This is why, my message is, that it doesn't get a lot of play. People like Alex Jones or David Icke, they get a lot of play. Why? Because they spread fear. Everybody needs it, apparently. They need fear. They need suffering. That's why these guys are popular. They make a lot of money off of that. They exploit confusion. Now, I don't begrudge them a living, okay, mind you, right? But how do you develop unity by creating an us and them scenario? Huh? How does that work? You actually think that when you get a whole bunch of people together with guns that you're going to solve a problem? No, you're going to create a problem. One thing for sure that I know, and it works every time, if you want peace, then go into a country and murder every single man, woman, and child. You'll have peace. Is peace what you want? How about reconciliation? Let's try that. When did we stop making deals with people? When did we stop trying to understand one another? When did we stop that? Huh? We've become so wholly compartmentalized. Our own experiences are so separate from everybody else. We don't even know who we are. How many people know their neighbors? How many people actually talk to their neighbors? Who are these people? Oh, one guy's like, taking an axe to people, cutting people up in his apartment. He's got 50 of them buried in his crawl space. Oh, he was a kind man. He was a nice man. Well, did you know him? Oh, well, yeah, I talked to him. He seemed okay. Did you know him? No, you didn't know him. If you knew him, he probably wouldn't need to cut people up with an axe. We're isolating ourselves. We feel alone. We've got all of these reflections of ourselves and we feel alone. We're not alone. You think on is lonely? That's a human emotion. It's over-identification with the suit. You feel lonely. Are you lonely? Yes, you're lonely. Is it a problem? No. You're an immense being of infinite power and complexity. You really don't need loneliness because that's a stupid human emotion. Oh, we get it here because it works real good in the, escape from hell game. So that's what we do. We feel lonely. Oh, we don't talk to anybody. Oh, we talk to people at work. Go to bars, right? That's a great place to meet people. Wonderful place to meet people. Yeah, you can really know somebody who's totally inebriated. Yeah. Yep. Or you go to the library, maybe. How about have a barbecue? I mean, I don't know how you feel about eating meat, but, you don't necessarily have to eat meat. But have a block party. Find out who's in your neighborhood. That's pretty helpful because, hey, if something weird happens, like the electricity goes out next week, you'd at least know who you're talking to. Everybody has to have their own separate stuff. Everybody has to have their own cars. Everybody has to have their own TVs, their own stuff like that. It's called consumerism. Everybody has their house. It looks right, identical to the house next door, identical to the house next door, and everybody has their own stuff. So they go shopping to meet a need they'll never fill. Oh, I got sofas and all this other stuff and blah, blah, blah. It's just stuff. Hey, can I borrow your rake? Yeah, sure. That's okay as long as you bring it back, or if you break it, you replace it. Wow, you only need one rake for 3 houses. Wow. But we've got 3 rakes for 3 houses, and we only use it once in a while. And way to use the resources. What boggles my mind is you look during, the world wars, where we decided, hey, it's a great idea to just take all of the productivity of a certain country and just sink it into the ocean. Great plan. All that metal, all of those resources, all of these explosives, all of those resources, we decided to just sink into the ocean because we couldn't talk to one another, or we were afraid and we decided we were going to control somebody else, or we just wanted their stuff. And I don't understand, these behaviors, because apparently there's a lot of people out there with holes in them that they can't fill. Here in this country, I don't understand what the entertainment value is of selling the same piece of property over and over and over again. You occupy the space above the land. You don't own the land. Banks are foreclosing on people, selling to somebody else, foreclosing on them, selling to somebody else, foreclosing on them, over and over and over again. That's all they're doing. I'm not impressed. Oh, well, that's not true. I am impressed, but not in the way you want. So what? It's like stepping on ants. Right? Taking advantage of people who are confused and irresponsible, that to me is not a challenge at all. Helping them provide an environment to where they can overcome their fear, become responsible citizens of the planet, mindful stewards. I think that's a pretty good idea. Certainly much more fun than just simply stirring up conflict and watching confused people shoot one another. You know, I mean, what would you expect? Would you expect something else? You know, that's the nature of confusion. I mean, what fun is it in just watching people die? You know, and it's hierarchical too. You know, it's not the people at the top that are actually doing it. Yeah, for them it's great. It's fine. It's like this risk game. Got these, little insects that are doing stuff. You can wager amongst the other guys, right? Then you got middle people that tell the people below them what to do, and down through the whole chain. The only people that might be having fun are the guys at the top. Everything down that chain, all the way down to the bottom, those guys are under stress. Totally distracted from their experience, right? So all the people down to the bottom, they're the ones slogging around in the mud with a gun. They don't want to be there. Or working at a job that they hate continually, day after day, because they're afraid of being starved to death. Now, that's fun for the guys at the top. But why are we doing this? What are we, afraid the guys up at the top have guns? Not a whole lot of them, folks. They're teaching us. We should cut them some slack. If we don't give them a way out, it's going to go wrong here. That's where forgiveness is going to solve the problem. Because if we blame them for what we did to ourselves, we're going to have a problem. That's us trying to transfer responsibility to them, or to reptilian aliens, or demons, or whatever it is. What is that? Alternative dimensional beings coming in here just messing stuff up. Look, I don't care what they are. Any construct obeys the law. If it's a fiction, it's all unfair and exists only in your mind, has no power. If it's real, then it obeys the law here. If it's hurting you, then what are you doing that allows that being to do that? You're giving it permission. All we have to do is say, from now on, no one has license or permission to practice procedural witchcraft in my environment. You do not get to practice law, Mr. Attorney. You do not get to practice law, Mr. Judge. Not procedural law. If you want to practice real law, then you may do that. Otherwise, you're creating an injury, and I don't give you license to that. Now, how can I revoke your license? I just did. Your license comes through BAR, British Accreditation Registry, right? I believe that's City of London, if I'm not mistaken. City of London's probably an outgrowth of the Vatican. Vatican is doing all this under probably a papal bull. I'm guessing unum sanctum, because that's where all the corporations were actually deemed necessary to hurt the confused people. They gave you a license. However, you cannot know the law like I know the law, because you're in a perpetual state of, quote, violation. You indulge fiction. Therefore, you will never know law as I know it. And I'm going to show people the law. So you will never have the same intimate knowledge of law that a lot of the people that listen to these videos have. So whether you have a bar license or not really doesn't give you permission to practice witchcraft. Because you do it in my presence, you do it on the people that I love and my friends. You're going to suffer consequences, and it is all your responsibility, and it's all your fault, because I remove my consent, and I'm fully conscious of the consequences of engaging in witchcraft. And if you do it, you're going to bear the strict responsibility for that, and strict liability for engaging in that deceitful practice of simply causing suffering. It's not the truth. Don't you see how you've confused yourself? Don't you see how you have demonstrated to the world that you've lost your mind? If you want to indulge fiction, you go ahead. Let's just see how that works out for you. The more people that remove their consent, the more it's going to impact those that have not. It's going to be geometric. You go ahead and blame it on bad luck. You go ahead and blame it on something else. Oh, blame Satan. Think everything's great here? United States, the freest country in the world. You know, if you don't like it, leave it. Yeah, you're free to be a slave. You're free to be abused, tasered. If you protest and resist, they'll put a bump on your head, put you in jail, fine you, make it impossible for you to work or feed yourself. It's the freest country in the world. We've got the highest population of prisoners in the world in this country. Highest per capita of prisoners. We got more people in jail in the United States than they do in China. And China's huge. I should tell you, but we're the freest country in the world. Yes, we feel free, but we are not free. You feel safe, but you're not safe. Feelings don't count. If you can't distinguish between the truth and fiction, it's hurting. Where am I going to go, right? Which country is not a UN, which country is not a member of the UN? Where am I going to go, huh? No place for me to go. I've been to other countries. Let me let you in on a little secret, Americans. You're not the most free country in the world. I've been to free countries. A lot freer than this one. You just think it's that way because the television told you that. All your friends think so too, but shoot, they haven't been out of the country either. Oh, they go to Mexico. That's very useful. You know, those people are more oppressed than you are. That's how you define it. You know, just like the Canadians come down here and say, what a mess. But there are other countries too. There's larger blocks of people in other countries that are much more free than you, and you just don't know it. Of course, you don't get to hear about it because your news is actually very, very controlled. When you leave, you'll find out that BBC World, I don't mean to single them out, BBC World that's broadcast to the world is completely different from the BBC World that's broadcasted into the United States. And you don't notice how manipulated it is until you leave and you come back. That was one of the things that just shocked me when I came back was the amount of advertising. I mean, it's just inundating, and it's high pressure too. You can really just feel it, but you don't detect that until you've left for a while and then come back. I mean, like 3 years. It's scary. So here in the United States, we're all participating in a fictional government or protesting this fictional government. Oh, and we're lining up. Right now, we got a choice between two candidates here in the United States. We have the devil and Satan. But if you listen to these guys very carefully, they are master wordsmiths. These aren't, Barack Obama and Mitt Romney are and even, George Bush and Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton. You have to listen very carefully to what they say. Most of the time they speak the truth. They speak the truth, and you assume it to be something else. There was this Rio meeting, and then they said that they need to develop more concrete resolve. What is that exactly? More concrete resolve? Resolve. How do you hold that in your hand? Resolve. Yeah, okay, I got some of that. Yeah, that's pretty useful to me. Doesn't actually say you're going to do anything, but you're resolved. You're resolved to do something in the future. Or we need to pay more attention to this. Okay? People are expecting you to do something about it, but you're just still paying attention. Oh, we're studying that problem right now. We have been. I mean, the funny thing is actually listening to campaign speeches from 20 years ago. And they were saying the same exact thing then as they are now. I mean, no kidding. Same exact things. Nothing's been resolved. That's not the problem. The problem is we actually expect a political system to actually do anything for us. A lawful government doesn't require politics. Okay? You elect people based on their character. Right? Their obligation is to meet their duty in law according to what the people have consented to. There's no need for politics in that. Okay, what's one candidate over the other? Well, you got a better. This candidate here has character. He's honest, and he says what he's going to do. It's not a matter of handing out goodies, and they don't hand out goodies anyway. They just make you think they're handing out goodies. Right? See, there's the problem. Politics, if you've got politics rampant, then you don't have lawful government, because lawful government is just people striving to adhere to the law that the people have consented to. There's no wiggle room here. Oh, well, we're going to decide what the budget is. No. We're going to tell you what the budget is. And you're going to stay within that budget, or you're not a servant, or you violated your oath. See, if the Constitution, the Republic Constitution of the United States, were actually enforced, and of course, you can tell that it's not enforced because the judges don't enforce it. They can't. It's a dead document. But if it was actually enforced, you should be able to just tell immediately. Hey, wait a minute. That's an illegal takings. Eminent domain don't work in here. You're overreaching. Right? But it should tell you that none of these people are actually following the Constitution of the United States. They're following the U.S. Constitution, completely different. You think it's any... You want to suffer? You sign on to the UN Declaration of Human Rights. Yep, that's right. You wonder why there's so many lawyers and attorneys in the United States. It's because everybody here is incompetent. The lawyers live your life for you because you don't. All you are is just labor. And that labor is only so useful in a technological world. I'm sorry, folks. I mean, you can't just sit there and put nuts on bolts anymore. You have to have a mind for some of the stuff that's coming. You can't do that without awareness. The problem was in the 60s they decided, hey, well, let's educate people. We had the highest literacy rate in the United States during the 60s, but what happened? Well, obviously, everybody got pissed off. They figured out what was going on. And then the guys at the top says, oh, my gosh, we can't do that, so let's dumb them down. So the last 30, 40 years, we've been going through the stooping process. We've been dumbed down. Well, there's a great idea. Okay? These people are running companies right now. Oh, I've been exposed to these people. These people are... they're special. All right? They don't have a clue about what they're doing. Right? Look at Fukushima. Right? I don't think Fukushima is actually, as much an accident as it is a very effective way of clearing people off of the property. Right? This is what we're supposed to believe with Fukushima. We're supposed to believe the highest, right, the most intellectual people in the world, the smartest people in the world, the engineers, right? right? Both from Japan and the United States. I believe GE was responsible for some of this, at least building the plants, designing it, right? This is what we're told. These very intelligent, right, solution people, left brain people, right? Left brain people, right? These very smart people, we're told, place the backup generators right on the coast. A lot of these engineers were Japanese. Didn't the Japanese actually come up with the word tsunami? So we're told that, oh, just must have slipped their mind. Now I don't know what I don't know what you want to believe there. Did they do it on purpose, or were they incompetent? Either way, it should scare you to death. You know, if you want to dumb your entire world population down so they're more manageable, then who's gonna run who's gonna run the technology? You know, it's not just nuclear power plants. What about drilling rigs? Hmm? You know, say what you want about people who are on drilling rigs. These guys have to be competent. They have to be skilled, and they have to be paying attention. Not only that, but I think a lot of the people that are actually doing the work are paying attention. But the people that are running them, saying, oh, no, 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 I know it's a danger, just go ahead and do it anyway. No, if you don't do it, then I'll fire you. Hey, let's pollute the entire Gulf of Mexico. Wow, great plan. Yeah, that's great. Let's destroy an entire food web, right? Yeah, we got that. Now we got, the Pacific Ocean. We're just going to dump all that radioactive stuff into the ocean. Well, we have no choice. We got a massive meltdown that's just running radiation everywhere. What if there's technology to get rid of that radiation? Wonder if that exists. We don't even know what we do not know. Right? There's research going on that we don't get to see. There's technologies for free energy that we don't get to see. And we're not going to see it until we're responsible, folks. Absolutely not. Free energy is not going to solve our problem. Our problem is right here. We solve that problem, the rest of the problems will take care of themselves. No, we don't get the goodies until we're responsible. You don't get the tools until you can demonstrate the responsibility. And folks, we're not doing that. This stuff's dangerous. Oh yeah, they'll hand us weapons. Yeah, well, they'll hand us weapons. A drone, remotely piloted, Sun Tzu would have a fit. He wouldn't even use it. There's nothing moral about an implement like that. There's nothing defensive about that either. That's a vengeance tool. War occurs when one country is stupid enough to commit an aggressive act. When they do that, the one that's attacked either kicks their butt or other decent countries in the area decide to kick their butt. But that's not what's going on here. We have guys at the top deciding, oh, well, that's sort of unsavory there. Let's import some rebels. Find out they're foreigners going in, being flooded in, armed. What are they doing? Well, they're destabilizing the country because a corporation can't put a pipeline across their country because they don't want it. They might have wanted it if they actually thought there was something in it for them. But of course, the corporations that were trying to put it through there were probably not giving them enough money, and they said no. So they decide, oh well, we have to create a humanitarian situation. Oh, that man is oppressing his people. Look at that. Look how the hooligans are running through his country, killing people left and right, when it's imported, specifically designed to do that. Of course, we can't see any of that because, we're watching the news. Yes, it's the news. I don't know, folks. I don't know if you realize this, but people have been injured by the news and taken the news organizations to court and saying, hey, we acted on false information. The news companies, news corporations says, oh, that's okay. Well, we never meant it to be the truth. Our news program is entertainment. We're not news reporters. We're journalists. Hey, you think about that. A journalist, right, writes their own impression about what they see. They can write anything in their journal, right? It's like a diary. Well, I saw magic fairy aliens floating in the sky, and they write it down on there. It's okay. It's journalism. We watch the news programs, the political programs on Sunday. How often they actually have an actual man in government on the news program actually telling you this is the policy that we're implementing, this is what we're doing. No, what you do is you have these roundtable discussions between other people in the media. And they're giving you their interpretation of stuff that you've never heard. And they're telling you the way it's working. That ain't a problem. You're believing them. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? What are you doing? Are you helping yourself here? Are you suffering? Are you just suffering to be suffering? Are you learning anything from it yet? Are you afraid? Pay attention. It's all happening right now. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this because things change. I don't know how much more useful me doing this is. I appreciate the fact that it's helping a few people, and I offer it freely. But other things are coming up now, and I have to do these things. I have my own necessities. It's just part of an ongoing learning experience. I can't continue to do just this. I would rather do this personally. I'd rather help people personally. It's much more effective than listening to the videos. The problem with the videos is it has to hit the least common denominator. When I'm speaking to you face to face, one on one, my intuition tells me what you need to hear immediately. What's in your mind comes to me, and I speak the words that you need to hear right at that moment. I can't do that in a group. It's not possible. Even if it's two people, I've got to focus on one person, and then there's an intuitive connection. Then I speak. There's an interaction. Then I got to focus on the other person, and it's too tough. The best way to do this is technically you sit down. Hey, we could have whatever, finger sandwiches. Hey, you could even have a beer. I mean, it's not a crime. And you talk. And I just sit here, and all I am is a reflector. Stuff comes to me, and I speak it. And it hits you where you are. This venue doesn't work very well. But right now, I just don't have physical things that allow me to do that, because apparently it's just not time yet. As things become more popular and more of us understand how this works, then things will start changing. Right now, you know, I'm here in the wood shop. I'm, largely alone most of the day. You know, I'm prohibited from any kind of meaningful employment. As soon as I get a job somewhere, they take 90% of my labor. Can't live off of that. You know, I mean, it doesn't make sense to even try, because there isn't enough. I live in Texas, and the idea in Texas is to sell as much oil as possible. So let's spread everything out all over the place, to where you have to have a car to do anything. Well, the cost of gas itself actually just disqualifies that. You know, so I mean, I'm capable. If I want to write software for somebody, hey, I could do that. You know, but I'd much rather just show people, be with people, interact with people. Things happen on their own. But right now I'm fairly isolated. I'm not the guru on the mountain. By no means. I live here with my mother-in-law, and she is an extreme egoic expression. And can't have strangers over here. Strangers, yeah. Scary. And all that is just a manipulation. I know that. So, one day she may get it, but, she's from the older generation. She may end up in the ground before she gets it. So, that's just the way it works. You don't, you take care of people, even when they're like that. You forgive them. But there's just a matter of necessity. Right now, apparently it's not important enough. I mean, it's not important for the people in my neighborhood, or it's not important enough for the internet community to pull me out of this. So I sit here and make videos. And few people actually see those videos. Even fewer actually are helped by the videos. So, and I'm going through this experience. I'm just waiting for them. I'm waiting for U.S. Marshals to come and take me away. And then I won't be able to do this. Just yesterday, the ISP sent me a message that I needed to re-register my domain. They waited to the last moment and said, hey, we need $75 immediately. Well, me and my wife, we just don't have it. We don't have that kind of money. We popped out of the air. It was there. But I thought it was pretty interesting that they would wait. Oh, no, they said I had until November to actually do it. But in the interim, anybody could, squat on that domain. Right? And I think they would like nothing more than actually figure out some way of actually taking the website off the air, or filtering YouTube. But right now they're afraid. It's change. It's unknown. They don't know how this works. They have no concept of forgiveness, because they themselves, they're largely as confused as everybody else. They don't know how that works. They don't understand that people have the capacity for forgiveness. Well, most people don't, but there are people with that. I don't have that problem. I try to work within the situation that I am, find the most equitable solution for everybody around me, and that really doesn't mean me taking advantage of you. A lot of the times I just cut you a whole a lot of slack, because all I've been seeing people do around me is just hurt themselves. My experience with the government officials is, one by one, the more people I talk to, the more people fail in their duty to me as a man. But worse, they fail themselves, as they're not even acting in a responsible way to protect themselves. It's just like, hey, I'll hand you a hammer, and then they just start beating themselves with it. After a while, I say, maybe I shouldn't hand them the hammer. But I can't just not be. I'm here for a reason. This is all happening for a reason. Yeah, if one of these videos actually goes viral, the world changes. Here's the weird thing. This insane guy, when you understand me, you change in profound ways, powerful ways. Not that you have any power, but power will be expressed in your experience, and you will be different. For us to have a meeting of the minds, or a meeting of the mind, it requires a complete change on your part. If you want to understand me where I'm at, truly, and you will be different. You have to be. You know, most of the people I speak to have no clue what I'm saying. They think I'm speaking some secret language. They can't understand. The words I use are actually pretty simple. They're pretty easy to understand. But that's not it. The sound hits them as truth. The meaning is being broadcast as truth. The words are just a carrier. The sound hits them. They recoil in horror because why? They're not ready yet. You know, the funnest, the most, and you get in my bubble. I got this bubble around me. You know, when you're in the bubble, you can really understand what I'm doing, but as soon as you walk out of it, they forget. So I'm talking to somebody, and when I talk to them, it makes sense to them. They understand it. And I tell them, I says, well, you know, hit the website and continue. He says, yeah, man, I really got to do this, man. This is the answer. This is great. And then I tell him, I says, yeah. I says, chances are, I'll not ever see you again. Because when you leave, you'll forget. You'll know it was important, but you won't be able to remember anything that I said to you. It'll be purged out of you. Once you forget that it's important, then you'll forget me completely. That's the way it works. And the bubble right now is about an acre. You know, I can tell as soon as I walk out of that area. You know, they come into, you know, their universe touches my universe, and then they can see, they can understand. But when I leave, they're right back there. Creates a bad situation for people who on their own don't have sufficient responsibility. You know, they come around me and wow, they can do it, and as soon as they walk away, boom, they're right back into it. You've got to learn how to do this for yourself. It's your responsibility. I can't do it for you. I can't make these decisions for you. These are your decisions. Attention is yours. It's your responsibility. Start doing it. You know, if you're, you know, find this stuff out for yourself, folks. I mean, don't just sit here and listen to some, you know, some old guy with a beard, headphones, sitting in a dark room, telling you stuff you've never heard before. You know, none of this stuff is magical. You can figure this stuff out for yourself. It's not hard. It's not hard. You know, take a single topic. You know, a trap. Are you in a trap? If you have a trap, does the trap make sense if the animal that you're trapping can get out? No? Doesn't make sense. It's not a trap then. What you're in is an ego trap. It's a hell. Something on the hunter has to open the cage for you, or the being outside of the trap has to open the cage for you. Otherwise it wouldn't be a trap. That's going to take trust. It's going to take, quote unquote, a small leap of faith. Oh, and it's small. I mean, like a mustard seed. Once you do that and you can see things happening like clockwork a few times, see these synchronicities that just blow you away over and over and over again, you're done. You're on your way already. Just a matter of time. See, because when you hear me and I talk to you, you're going to get it one way or the other. You're going to figure it out. Right? The more attention you pay, the easier it'll be for you. Either way, you can go eyes on through the process actively, or you can be dragged kicking and screaming through the process in the most painful, miserable way. It really doesn't matter. It's all up to you. You hear this voice, you hear my voice, it's too late. You might as well pay attention. You might as well work on it. You have nothing better to do. Like no other time, that's the truth. Right now. Pay close attention. Remove your consent. Don't allow them to transfer the consequences of their behavior onto you. Because if you consent, it's your fault. They punch you in the face, it's your fault. Why? Because here in the United States, we have a world of people that are basically said, it's okay to do what it is that we're doing. Nobody's outraged. Oh, well, yeah, there's outrage, there's protest, but not sufficient to do anything about it. They just turn the cops on you. But they're not bad. They're giving you what you need. And what you need really right now is to pay attention. Fix it. Fix it. A small ease in suffering goes a long way, folks. Try it. All of a sudden you end up in the state you've never felt before. It's actually kind of surprising. It's new. It's different. It's called happiness. It's worth it. And not only that, but you figure out what love is. I mean, really love. I mean, not that lust thing, not that emotional thing. Real love is just awesome. Most of you haven't felt it before. Oh, you think you have. Oh, there's a lot of people out there that think they're awake. They think they're conscious. They think they're aware. Those are the people that have the hardest time listening. Because they've already decided what reality is. And, for them there's no cage. There's no perceptual cage. Well, we're not in a trap. I don't see the walls. I can do everything I want as long as I obey the rules. Really? They don't want you to obey the rules. In fact, you can't. You can't know the rules. In fact, you gotta really think about, okay, how many rules am I breaking right now? You don't know. There's probably a law that says, well, human beings are not allowed to exist freely. Anybody who does gets punished. You should look at the list for Department of Homeland Security in the United States on people that they consider a threat. Yeah. One day they're going to say, if you're left-handed, then we believe that you pose a huge threat to the United States. The biggest threat to the United States is the United States. The government itself is its greatest threat. But that's not really a big deal because the government itself is a fiction. How does a man threaten a fiction? Right? It wasn't done by anybody's consent. It's a corporate document. It was created as, an article of incorporation. There's no trustees, so how are they hurt? Who's being injured? Nobody. So how can a man be a threat to the United States at all? Could be a threat to the people of the United States, but guess what? I don't know. It seems to me. Yeah, I could be wrong here. Seems to me that the government itself is pretty dangerous. Certainly a threat to the people. How are the people a threat to a fiction? They're not. It's that unsolvable puzzle thing. You ready to walk away yet? Well, I've talked a lot on this one. I don't mean to waste your time. Hey, homework assignment. Ask a question. Wait for the answer. Pay attention until you do. Ask something really strange like, okay, why did this happen in my life? And then watch what happens in your experience. Pay really close attention. Actually treat it seriously, like nothing's unimportant. See how it relates to the question that you ask. Keep your attention on it. Focus on the now. Generally, you get the answer immediately, but you can't trust what you're getting. The answer comes immediately, but we have to practice how to receive it. So a lot of us need to be hit upside the head with a brick. It's all right. So, but you have to be prepared that that may be what needs to happen. Right? An uncomfortable situation will occur, especially if you're dealing with an important question in your life. Right? And you might get the answer right away, but you may not accept it. But then the universe then is actually fashioned to answer the question for you. And sometimes, if it's something worth learning, then it probably had an uncomfortable suffering element to it. So any revisitation of that particular experience is going to manifest a degree of suffering. The only way you're going to minimize that is actually pay attention and get it when you get the answer. You hang around and have to get it again. And it'll sit there, and the universe will come back and try to teach you that lesson over and over and over and over again until you get it. Trick is, get it the first time. The odd thing about the universe is the first one is actually a freebie. There isn't a whole lot of pain in there, just enough to get your attention. But if you don't get it that first one, that next one hurts more. And the next one after that hurts more and hurts more and hurts more. Don't let it become a terminal disease or a car accident or a random act of violence. Right? Or an act of negligence where a lack of your attention actually causes the death of another human being. There's consequences for that. There's a lack of attention. We call that negligence. Just a lack of attention. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't know. I forgot and left my baby in the car. Why? You were distracted. You weren't paying attention to what you were doing. You weren't paying attention enough, and guess what? You were focused on what you want. You were focused on the future. You had a million things in your mind except for right now. And you left your baby in the car in the summertime. Of course, your baby here came, the only reason your baby came here to this universe was to show you how dangerous your lack of attention was. And you might beat yourself up the rest of your life and still not learn the lesson that your baby sacrificed itself to teach you. The only reason it came here is to teach you that lesson. And we're not getting it. Oh, we might get it now. I have a feeling I'm impacting a few of you. All right, folks. I'm Roage, still in the woodshed. You have a good day.